I criticize Tesla for a lot on this channel is setting high expectations that you can't necessarily deliver on. I'm not trying to defend Tesla here with the Cybertruck because they clearly set incredibly high expectations, saying over 500 miles of range with a starting price below $40,000. And now, based on Tesla's behavior with not delivering original range numbers or raising prices a lot higher than we originally expected, has made me think neither of those insane specs are going to be delivered on. But it feels like Dodge hasn't really learned that lesson with the Ram EV, which they were hyping up for a long time. They were sending people emails hyping up that 500 miles of range was going to be prioritized, and then at CES this year, basically, they were hyping up that this was going to be the grand reveal for the Ram revolution. And I was very excited because, of course, the electric pickup truck space is very low in supply. There's not that many options, and we want more. We want more companies getting vehicles into production and delivering them and trying to prioritize different features that cater to different markets. So I was hopeful that Dodge could perhaps be one of the first electric pickup trucks with over 500 miles of range, because that seemed to be what they were hyping it up about. But then leading up to the unveil, they clarified that this was only meant to be a concept, and then as the unveil actually took place, it ended up being mainly just rendering, and they have one dummy model that appears to not be functional or capable of working at all, so like no one's actually able to drive the thing, just to basically showcase what an electric pickup truck could be. But this is not the production model design, and they didn't come forward with range numbers or pricing. So basically, in my view, all this does is set high expectations, because just like any concept vehicle, it probably will not have a lot of the things that you love about it. So this was incredibly disappointing to me. Like, I personally would rather you not announce anything if you don't have actual specs or production model designs to showcase. This is just them showing off that, like, our R&D department can crank out a very cool looking prototype. But the reason I think this sets way too high expectations is because you can build in a lot of cool features and a lot of cool designs if you're only designing one of something, and that one of something doesn't even have to function. All it has to do is look pretty on a stage. You're gonna be able to bake in all kinds of cool and amazing designs and features, but that doesn't mean all of those things actually scale or can actually make it to the final product. And you'll probably incorporate a lot of design characteristics that are way too expensive, but because you're not planning on selling that model, it doesn't matter if it's too expensive. So yeah, I will admit the Dodge Ram EV concept does have some pretty amazing features. Like, I appreciate the modular floor system so that you can accommodate for 4 seats, 5 seats, 6, or even 7 seats if you want, with those jump seats in the back. I like that futuristic steering wheel design. I like the suicide door approach. It just feels very wide, very open on the interior cabin space, and all of these modules that unfold with the tailgate so that you can drop down the midgate and even access the frunk from the back, and theoretically have like 18 feet pieces of plywood that can be totally enclosed within the vehicle, which it's a very impressive design characteristic. But again, I find myself getting like too hopeful, like, oh yeah, that would be really cool, I hope they do this. And even the exterior I like. I don't think I've ever talked about it here, but when I was a kid, I always wanted to have a Dodge Ram pickup truck. I just thought they had the coolest designs from the outside. I wasn't caring too much about the practicality or the towing capacity or any of that stuff. I just thought Dodge Ram had the coolest looking pickup trucks on the road. Now, my opinions have changed a lot from becoming an adult, if you will, but I love the headlight design. I like that it seems to be at least somewhat catering towards having an aerodynamic and yet utility focused design with all of the storage space alongside the wheel wells. It's all very cool stuff. I'm just very doubtful now that half of this stuff is even going to make it into the production model. And what made me even more discouraged is hearing that Ram plans on offering a gasoline powered range extender for their EV truck, which, oh god, if this is their way of claiming that, see, we're able to hit 500 miles of range, then I've just lost like a whole lot of respect for the product as a whole. Because not only, for one, does a range extender take up storage space within the pickup truck, so that means less space that you can designate towards other cargo things, but it also involves running away from the EV pickup truck problem, which of course is range. How do you make a big pickup truck aerodynamic, and how do you have a good charging infrastructure and good charging speed for those battery packs? Of course, there's a lot of different scenarios going on. You know, Rivian's building out their adventure network, Tesla's talking about mega chargers and having ultra fast DC charging for the Cybertruck, and Ford is just, I guess, assuming that Electrify America is good enough. But to me, relying on the gas range extender is just admitting defeat, just admitting that, yeah, we don't know how to get batteries to charge fast enough, or we don't want to try to deploy more fast charging stations. That would take time and money. That's just hard. So we're going to continue to rely on the gasoline infrastructure to keep our battery packs going. But even if that's somewhat efficient compared to a purely gas vehicle, it's still going to eat into the cost advantages of owning an EV, because I'm sure the Dodge Ram EV is going to be expensive. And if you have to rely on gasoline on those trips, then for one, we should mention that's taking away from the concept of it being a zero emission vehicle. In my view, it should no longer be pitched as a battery EV. It should be pitched as a plug-in hybrid. So it's not necessarily accelerating the transition as quickly as it would be to just try to find an end-all be-all solution, which is, in my opinion, rapidly deploying fast charging stations and relying purely on an efficient powertrain with a large energy-dense battery pack that hopefully, as time goes on, we can lower the price of production of those battery packs. But I'm sorry, I know there's some people that have this belief of, well, we don't have enough batteries, therefore we should make more plug-in hybrids that use smaller battery packs. That way you can keep using gas stations on road trips and just use batteries for driving around town. We've already seen the market respond, like with Tesla's outselling normal gas vehicles that cost half the price in other countries. Like, there is tons and tons of demand for people that want pure electric vehicles, and not the same amount of demand going on for plug-in hybrids. It seems like most people are not interested in having to maintain a battery pack and worry about what to charge it to or how many cycles it has to go through before you need to replace it, and have a combustion engine to worry about, where it's like, okay, you can't leave gas in that for too long because gasoline can go bad over extended periods, and you've got more oil changes to worry about. You've got a transmission and head gaskets. So rather than trying to maintain both things and have somewhat of an inefficient combustion engine and an inefficient EV, people tend to prefer picking one over the other. Either you get a super cheap used gas car, or you spend a lot of money on an EV but you don't have a transmission or a combustion engine of any kind to worry about. That's what I think the future is, and that's what the market is speaking to. And if the problem is that there's not enough batteries to choose from, then my go-to solution is, well, then we need to start building more battery packs, whether that's Tesla setting up their own lithium refinery and building up their own cathode manufacturing directly at Giga Texas. The solution is to lower the price of batteries, not to say, well, let's just keep relying on gasoline, because the infrastructure that requires gasoline to exist is nowhere near environmentally friendly. So I know that people are convinced that, oh, batteries, that takes emissions to mine, therefore batteries aren't better for the environment, while ignoring that we need a lot of those same materials like cobalt to refine oil, and it takes a crap ton of emissions and energy to pump oil out of the ground, transport that oil to a refinery, use a ton of emissions and precious materials on refining that oil, then using a big inefficient diesel semi-truck to transport that gasoline to the gas pump, and then of course at the combustion engine itself that is producing more emissions the more you use it. So because I do believe that global warming is real and climate change is going to progressively get worse unless we start accelerating more renewable energy and more sustainable energy practices. Plus there's all kinds of cost advantages energy-wise to have your electricity and what's powering your vehicle come from a domestic power plant or from solar on your house, compared to relying on oil that's coming in from foreign entities. I don't believe we should just act like we have an infinite amount of gasoline to pull from. Like, the sooner we get off of our dependence on all of this oil, the better it's going to be for the planet and for our wallets. So that's why I kind of roll my eyes and cringe every time I hear about, like, well, we can just rely on gasoline when we feel like it. It's like if you want to switch to EVs, you better start getting the fundamentals right, because that's what Tesla's done, and it's definitely paid off for them to build out a fast charging infrastructure first and just rely purely on battery packs and not try to fall back on the gasoline infrastructure, because that is going to go the way of the dinosaur, of which it came, and people aren't as interested in buying those hybrids in the first place. If you're going to have to rely on gasoline to power your electric truck, then I think most people are just going to keep buying the gas trucks anyway. So overall, I'm just disappointed. I guess I hope that we get a somewhat close to the concept production model later in the year, but I guess with Rivian ramping and on their third calendar year of production, as well as the F-150 Lightning becoming so commonplace and more of them being spotted around where I live, is really encouraging, and with Tesla tooling up their assembly line for the Cybertruck, which is hopefully launching later this year, I was hopeful that Dodge would be a little bit closer to a production model with pricing and specs at this time. I wasn't hoping that 2023 would start off with, here is our concept of what a pickup truck could be. It's like, you guys, nice, like, Tesla feels late already with the Cybertruck. Now you're just sounding even more late that you're unveiling it now, but you don't even have the production specs ready. So overall, just disappointed. But yeah, I will admit that the concept truck they made is pretty cool, and I hope that as much of what they showed off in that design makes it into the production model, but I don't have a ton of hope. And I guess the electric Dodge Charger should have been a good indicator of what's to come from Dodge, because they thought what was more important with developing their first electric vehicle was making sure that it had external speakers to keep your neighbors up at night when you're revving up your subwoofer that doesn't actually do anything. Oh god, we're gonna look back at this in 20 years and cringe so hard. I'm cringing now, but the rest of the industry is gonna be laughing when we look back at vehicles that were trying to impersonate the combustion engine. What did you guys think of the Dodge Ram EV pickup? Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps me out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.